Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 452 of Dial the Gate, the Stargate Oral History Project. My name is David Reed. It's been a while since I've been broadcasting to you, but it's been a busy summer here, and I really appreciate you being with me for this episode. Thanks to everyone who's joining us live. Bonnie Arbuthnot, the first Get in the Gate winner for Stargate, is joining us in this episode, and you would recognize her as Bonnie from Lost City. Hello, dear.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine. Nice to
Bonnie,
see you too.
good to see
Nice
you.
to talk to people.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Recently retired. And you know what? With all this talk of Stargate, I've been really missing people, especially the people I met at conventions and the actors I met at conventions. And so if any of them are on here, hello, I missed you.
Yeah, there are a few who tune in. DeLuise watches pretty much episode. I know that, but there's you never know who you're going to find. We've been so fortunate to have so many of the folks who created this franchise over the years on, and I was so thrilled when you reached out into the live stream chat that we had for, I guess it was State of the Gate, the one the last State of the Gate that we did, and I was like, oh my God, there she is! Please call me. So you were the first Get in the Gate winner that they did several years, and I know that there are several others on here. I have a few of your names. If you want to be on the show, email me. We'll have you on. We'll tell your story. But I definitely wanted to start with you.
I would definitely watch that.
Right? Because you were the first, and
no, I was the second.
But
I was the first to dare. Yeah, there was a guy the year before me, but he couldn't go to Vancouver, so they just named a character after him. But I don't know what his name is. So
the first year for it was they specifically said that they were going to use your good name, which was Sandy Van Densen, I believe.
Ah.
So you were the first walk-on role.
Yes.
That was the difference. So season 6, they did Sandy Van Densen's name. They gave that character to. Let me see here real quick. It's Tom Macbeth's partner. And that part went to Karen Conoval. So she played the character who fixed Jonas up in Prophecy.
Okay. Now
who went in there into his brain and got the tumor. Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. But you were definitely the first walk-on role. Mm-hmm. And how long had you been a Stargate fan up to that point? How long had you been watching?
From the very beginning, I was a big fan of Richard Dean Anderson from MacGyver. And I'm a huge Stargate fan. I like the movie. And I'm an Egyptophile anyway. I actually went to Egypt. And so there was no way that I was there watching the first episode when it was on Showtime. And it was great from the beginning.
Okay. Did you ever think that you would be appearing on the show?
No. No. I just it was a Saturday, I believe, and I was just working on my computer and running a rerun on my TV. And it said, join the Get in the Gate contest, and it said where to go. So it just took me 5 minutes. I went to the site where it was, and filled out the form, and that was that. And not too much later, I think a month, I found out. Do you want to know how I found out?
I would love to know.
I was walking my dog with a friend who was walking her dog. And so we're walking down the street, and the UPS van stopped dead right next to us. It said, you've got to see this. You got to see this. I don't know. To this day, I don't know how he knew. And he handed me a cardboard packet, and I opened it up. And I used to run Wright contest and sweepstakes rules when I was at Quaker Oats years ago. And I knew right away when it was. Because this was all legal stuff. You have to sign your life away, to do it. And I knew right away. I drove people crazy because I was so happy and I was so excited. So yeah, that was fun to find that out that way.
So they didn't call you; they mailed it to you. Your notification. Yep. Wow.
Yes, with all the legal documents. I ended up calling them, I think, first to verify some things. I hope I remember that correctly. It was a while ago. I do remember talking to someone a couple times before I went to Vancouver.
Absolutely wild. So you got notified. Was this a couple of months out? Was this how much time did you have to prepare? Do you
Oh, by the
recall?
time I knew what was going on, I think I had 2 weeks. It was really fast. Uh, I didn't have to. My main thing was I didn't have a chance to diet. It was like a lot of women would understand that one. Um,
Yeah.
but I did talk to somebody on the phone, and I got, I said, can I bring? I have a new suit I just got, ordered, and can I bring that? Should I bring that? And because they were asking me about size and costume things. They
Of
said, oh
course.
yeah, bring your suit. I ended up wearing my own suit,
Oh, you
and
did.
yeah, and they made me not wear a different top though. It was very hot, but it was. I guessed what I was going to do. That's the first thing I said. Am I going to play someone in the White House? Because I was trying to figure out where they could put me in that episode. Once I figured out what I was doing, I see you showing my picture. I really love that picture. One of the
It's a
makeup
good
people.
photo.
Yeah, it was really nice, and that's my suit. And the funny thing is, years later, I was working at my job, and by then I'd calmed myself enough down that I didn't tell people about being on that TV show anymore. And someone was homesick, and I got this phone call in the middle of the day. Bonnie, is there something you have to tell me? And I still had that suit. There was no mistaking it. And so it was pretty funny to get that out of a coworker years later.
Oh, that was funny. So they were just watching the show, and then because it's your name, they go ahead and use that.
Yeah.
Wow. If any of you folks in the chat, in the live chat, have questions for Bonnie, go ahead and submit them, and Anthony and the team will get them over to me. That's wild.
Okay. Would I see that, or would you tell me the questions?
I'll get those to you.
Great.
But that's wild. I'm curious, were they specific about not responding to William Devane, like not saying anything because you're not a member of their union up there?
Yeah, William Devane tried to give me a line. All it was thank you. He said that you've been trying to give you a line. And it was kind of awkward because he'd invite me, into his office, and you don't just get mute from the president. You say, hi, hello, Mr. President, or thank you, or whatever. And but after a few takes of that, Martin Wood, the director, came out and said, Bonnie, they'd be too expensive to pay you. You can't have a line. So it's okay. And I kind of blamed it on William Devane. He did it.
Wow.
So yeah, it was kind of, I would have signed something, you don't have to pay me. But it was fine. I wasn't there to be on. It was fun being in the episode, but what I was really there for is to see everything being made, hang out there. That was my favorite part.
How many days were you a part of that process? So maybe we should look at the photos first, because it suggests that you were there at least for 2.
2
so let me
days.
pull this up here. So do you recall what this pin is? I tried to get the resolution on it.
It's my Peace Corps pin.
Okay.
I have special permission to wear that. I was in the U.S. Peace Corps, and it's my Peace Corps pin. I still have it.
Wow, fantastic.
It
nice.
thought it looked right for the White House, have a patriotic pin. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And then this obviously is a great photo. The Hayes administration and Dr. Weir.
Yeah, Dr. Weir, Jessica Steen, and on the right, Ronnie Cox, who played the vice president. I was thrilled to work with William Devane. I've been a huge fan of his since I saw him, I think I was in high school, in a film that it's hard to find now. It was a miniseries, I think, at least 2 episodes, Missiles of October, about Kennedy, his brother,
Cuban Missile Crisis.
The missile crisis. And he, to this day, in my mind, played the best John F. Kennedy, because I am old enough, I was in 3rd grade when he died, that I remember how funny he was. And that's very rarely portrayed when they portray him in movies and all that. And William Devane caught that.
Wow.
He got that about him. He was very wry and very funny, and kind of like they talk about Obama now. He was very clever, in speaking. And they always focus on him being good looking, which he was. But what made him popular was he was so funny and so clever and quick. And I thought William Devane and Missiles of October got that. And I am obviously not the only one because they recruited him for that role. And
For
I
sure.
don't know if you've seen in the beginning where he stops at the mirror to check himself, but he kind of kneels, crouches down, and he's looking at the bust of Kennedy, and that was perfect.
Oh, so that's the connection. I've not seen, I wasn't aware that he had done that, but that's a great little nod.
Yeah,
Wow.
someone who recruited him for that role, called him up, knew that, and it was perfect. He's kind of known for playing politicians, but he was an
excellent president. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Getting him back for Continuum was just a treat.
Oh yeah, I was jealous.
So
I should have been there.
Wasn't one of the takes? How many takes did you guys do? Because I remember you talking about a couple of because his dialogue with you was ad-libbed. There was a couple of changes.
A lot of changes. First of all, they didn't tell me they were going to name the character after me. So the first take, he's like, "Buddy," and I'm like, "Whoa," I had no wording of that. That they did that on purpose. They probably ruined the take, but it was funny. And we did takes all morning with the camera behind me and the clicker. What do you call that thing where they click it? Just like in the movies, take one, take two, take whatever.
Oh, the clapper.
Yeah, the clapper. They did that right in front of me, which was very cool. I didn't mess up any takes, but I didn't have any lines. That's easy.
You didn't trip over your heels.
Yeah, the morning one, I was way back by the outer office door, and they filmed me walking in, him calling me and me walking in. And then about lunchtime, Martin Wood came out. He was this was a 3-dimensional set. It was created for the X-Men movie. Beautiful,
X2,
perfect. Yeah, rendition of the White House. And so it was very intimidating. But because of that, Martin Wood and Mr. Greenwood, I'm blanking on his first name right at the moment. Michael Greenberg.
Oh, Michael Greenberg, yeah, executive producer.
Yeah, we're behind the scenes in some kind of remote viewing thing. And I actually got to be back there with my friend earlier in the day when they were filming. A lot of ozone back there. It was hard not to cough. You didn't want to cough and make any noise. But that's how he had to view everything. So if he wanted to talk to you, he came out. And he said, "Bonnie, I have good news and bad news. You're going to be in another scene, but you can't go on your tour." So I didn't get my tour or my lunch with the sci-fi people. And I found out there was a gift basket somehow I never got. A friend told me she saw it. But my friend that was with me. So I still, to this day, wonder what was in that gift box.
You're in more than one scene?
No, he tricked me. It's the same scene, but he decided to redo it like Strangers on the Train. If people are into film, the Strangers on the Train is famous for filming the whole scene in one camera, one take, and they just follow everybody. And that's what they did. They put the camera on a dolly and had it in the Oval Office. And what happened was, as I came in, I think that's when they changed it, where I'd be talking to Holly Dignard, who played the president's executive secretary. They had us fake talking, and I knew how to do that from high school drama class, and we were fake talking. And he'd call me in, and I'd walk right in front of the camera, blinded me every time. And the first time, I actually caught my foot under the carpet, and then they closed the door. And they basically close the door, and the scene continues in the outer office. And the first time it was kind of funny because when I realized I didn't want to talk because the scene was continuing outside the office, even though the door was closed. And I pointed down, and William Devane saw my foot caught under the carpet, and I extricated it. And then he jumped up and down on it. He didn't want to do that himself.
Right. Carpet roll.
The couch, which looks exactly like the White House couches. He said, "Sit down." And then he immediately started talking to me about Knots Landing and people in Knots Landing, and I went totally blank. I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's talking about Knots Landing." So it was really cool. He was very friendly, and that's if people wonder what happened when we were trapped in the Oval Office while the scene continued in the outer office, and with Ronnie Cox, and I'm blanking out who else was in the scene. I know Holly.
Yeah, that's Jessica Steen. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Jessica Steen came in. Yeah, and so we were just in there gabbing. But he was a really nice man, very funny.
I'm remembering.
Great.
I'm hoping that this is not a fabrication of my memory, that you said one of the takes was, instead of saying "good to see you," he said, "hope you brought your checkbook."
How did you remember that? Yeah, I must have said that ages ago.
That's a conversation that you and I had. I was like, I think that's right, and I wanted to double check because I wanted to add it to the record here.
Every time it was something different. One time it was, I hope you have your checkbook ready. I was carrying the documents. I was carrying was actually it was a top secret dossier of Daniel Jackson. Very impressive. So I thought I was a bigwig. I had this top secret document, and now he's making me someone donating to him. Yeah. He just kept me on my toes. I didn't know what he was going to do, and it was so hard to talk because when he asks you questions, you want to answer them. Yeah. Oh yeah, I've got my checkbook or whatever, but I'd get in trouble. So I kind of looked to myself, that I couldn't say anything.
I would just mime like, see you. Well, do you have to pay me if I'm moving my mouth? Is that it? Or does it if the voice comes out? That's funny.
Yeah.
Now,
and I looked down a little bit in the scene that they chose because I was being blinded by the camera. So I really wasn't trying to look down. It was just like I was trying to be able to walk in without tripping over the camera.
Look, you have a lot thrown at you in that, 5-10 seconds, and you've never, been on camera like that before, and you have 50 people around you, and you don't want to mess the moment up, and you're the scene with William friggin' Devane and Ronnie Cox and Jessica Steen, so just hold on to your hat and get through it.
Steen thought I was a professional actress. She thought I was an actor. I had to tell her I was just the gate contest winner. So, she had no idea. That was such a compliment to me, that she didn't know I wasn't real,
Well, you are real for a day.
Pardon? Yeah, for a day. Actually, that's a quick, funny story. The first day we got to watch them filming in the conference room in right above the gate room. We got to, that was so cool. My friend and I walked in, they guided us in, and they said, be really quiet because they're filming now. We've got a break so we can walk in, but quickly. So we're walking in what just looked like a warehouse. And then I see the tape on the floor. And I was like, Nancy, look. And we realized we were going to the gate room right then. And then the gate appears. And we couldn't go touch it or do anything. They just escorted us quietly past it. But then we went to those stairs that they have in the show. Another three-dimensional set. The Stargate set's real. They didn't make it up. It was totally real. And
it's totally a 360 set. Yeah.
Yeah. We climbed up the first, and we could see the equipment room, with all the, the equipment. And then we climbed up, where they get the gate going and everything. And then we climbed up the next flight to the conference room. And they sat me down, and I just sat down, and the first thing that happened after they sat me down near the window is Ronnie Cox came in and introduced himself to me like I was somebody. He's a very nice man. He was.
That is so cool. I have this. Is this photo taken from that day? Yeah. Notice Richard Dean Anderson is missing. I still take that personally because I was really wanting to meet him. He showed up later when they were filming. But my friend was a huge Daniel Jackson fan, so she got to stand next to him. Oh, this was great then. Everybody was great to us. And I got to talk to Amanda Tapping for a while. She's a really nice person. And she gives hugs. Everybody gives hugs, and they all smell good. And then we watched them film. We were kind of in the middle of the cameras on the conference room table, and we watched them film. We watched them set up. And I stared at Richard Dean Anderson talking too much because they caught my eye. He was like, why is she staring at me? And I was really realized, I thought I was watching the show. I had to stop staring at him. It distracted him.
But then,
Yeah, you can't make eye contact. They'll get on you. They got on me once for Rachel Luttrell. So.
Yeah, well, I learned. They could have just warned me, but I learned not to do that. That distracted them. And then they took us away and said, we have to go back to the border. A guy took us to the border, drove us back there, and I had to get approved to work in Canada. So It took about 3 hours, but the payoff, just you standing in line like everybody else with the border stuff. And the payoff was I got a document put into my passport said that my profession in Canada was actor.
Yeah, technically.
Yes, I hated turning that passport in. That's when they used to make you turn them in. I didn't like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. You would think that Sci-Fi Channel would have taken care of all of that. I'm kind of surprised. That's kind of so you did your scene and then you had to go to the border?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd gone through the border already from the one they have at the airport, the crossing, the thing in there. But I had to go back to get the approval, to act. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that surprised me that I had to do that. But we missed some time watching on set, but and hanging out. But that's still, I thought the payoff was cool,
No, absolutely. But you got to see the explosions. Was this the next day or the day before? You didn't get to see this?
No, I did not.
Oh, you sent me this photo.
Oh, I accidentally sent you that photo. Oh. I thought it was another photo of sorry.
No,
it's all good. My computer's acting a little glitchy today, but that's cool.
But this is Lost City, isn't it?
Yeah. I didn't get to see that.
Okay. I was gonna say they brought you out there for that. That would have been pretty cool.
I would have loved that. Yeah.
Makes me wonder what other photos you have that you haven't sent me.
That probably was something somebody sent me.
Oh, okay. Absolutely. No, there's it's wild how much they go through in that production as quickly as they can get through things. It's wild how fast they can get through stuff as much as they have to do. And it's just a machine. They just keep on processing scene after scene, especially Martin Wood. He knows what he's doing. That's wild.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
I have,
I still remember he asked me, what was my favorite film and favorite episode. And I actually gave him the wrong one, but thank goodness it was one of the ones he did. Because he wanted me to say what he did. I said the one with where they were being pulled through the wormhole. But actually, I think my favorite episode is Abyss.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to. I just thought that everything about that was so perfectly done. And I was like, I didn't get to talk to him about Abyss. So yeah, he's definitely I was so happy. He's definitely my favorite director. Sorry to the other directors. I love you all, but
yeah, no.
He's very science fiction. He's very hard science fiction like me. So his episodes are really the ones I like the most. And guess who they're all written by?
Yeah, Brad Wright.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brad Wright is I'm super fan of his too, and I later on got to meet him, and I didn't get to talk to him much, but I just love his writing. It's always high science fiction, very crisp, a lot of space scenes, all the stuff I'm a fan of.
Have you seen Travelers?
Yes, I have seen Travelers. It's been a while.
Good.
Yeah, that was good.
I have some fan questions for you.
Okay. Oh.
Lock Watcher, how far did you have to travel to be on the show where the White House set was located? Was that over at Norco, or was that like another studio from Bridge?
No, it was at Bridge.
Was the White House the White House set was at Bridge? Oh.
I'm sorry, White House set. I thought you meant the other one. No, the White House set was a lot further away, but that was my first time in Vancouver, so I had no idea where it was. But it definitely took a while to get there.
Okay. Yeah. No, it was, I knew that they had used it for X2, and it was wild that they got to use it for Inauguration and for Lost City, because it's a 360 set of the White House. It's one of those, it's like, wow, that's going to be top shelf.
Yeah. And that location for the White House set was very big. and it had they had brought in those trucks, those huge vans that sometimes you see where I'm from in Chicago when they're filming something, and you always wonder what's in them. And they were all dressing rooms. I got a dressing room. I really did get a dressing room. They're tiny, but it had a shower, it had a TV, it had some kind of stereo, and some place to sit. I did not use it. I went in there for a few minutes, and as soon as I got in there, they'd call me out every time.
They were moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is wild. All right.
Knock, knock, knock. Can you come back?
Yeah. Bonnie, we're ready for you. It's funny. Hannah K wanted to know, did it feel surreal the whole time you were there?
Yes. So surreal.
Kind of wild.
I think what kept me focused was, first of all, I was like pretending to be mature adult, because inside of me, I was, the kid thing was going on. I was like, fear, but I was like, act, professional, so they let you do this. But the makeup people and the hair people and some of the, people who worked around on set who I didn't exactly know what their jobs were really great about answering some of my questions. We all have questions, when we come up, and the actual director, Martin Wood, and other people, they didn't have time to do that, and it was nice having some people be kind enough to talk to me and be nice to me and answer questions. That was great.
For sure. I mean, that's the thing. You are a contest winner. You are an extra line item on their day of things that they have to do. And, they could just check some boxes with you and send you on your way. But when they recognize, and it sounds like in this case they sure did, how important fans are to this process, there's some who will bend over backwards, and Stargate Productions, as far as I'm concerned, has always been one. Every time that Darren and I went to set, we felt that we didn't get in front of camera, but
Devane there, and they, I didn't get to tell you how we got to the set. We got picked up.
Oh, from the airport?
From the airport by a guy in a van, and it turns out his main job, either right then or it might have overlapped or might have been his last job, was escorting people to the X-Files. And boy, we got some great X-Files gossip. That was good. And then they just, the guy that escorted us, he was a person who worked in their PR department. He took us to where everybody's eating lunch. So we got lunch right away. It was outside. They had some tarps up where you could see. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was good. And he said, the super soldiers are here. I was like, what are super soldiers? So it's the first time I ever heard of them. And I wanted to go over and introduce myself and say, for one thing, they were just sitting there with their uniforms half off. So it was very impressive. And one of them turned out to be Dan Payne, who, if you've gone to conventions, he's so friendly. And I could have probably gone up to him because he would have been really nice. And I met him several times since then at conventions. I think everybody who goes to him has. And so, people out there. Yeah. And so that's one of the, I remember him and the other guy, who I'm not sure who it was because they were, in outfits, but that they didn't bring us in for quite a while. And then they brought us in the main offices, and my friend Nancy went to get a drink of water, and Peter DeLuise is actually the one who got it for her because he was kind of near the fire. So I was like, do you realize who you were just talking to? She's like, no, who's that? It's Peter DeLuise. And I know who he is from, from his first big role in that other TV show, and then being a director
21
now.
Jump Street.
21 Jump Street. And then, so that was kind of fun.
I know him from Sequest.
He's very nice to us.
He's a good guy. No, I love him to pieces. Foothill Climber wants to know, is there any chance you're going to be attending the upcoming GateCruise?
When is the GateCruise? I have to find
January.
out. You know what? I'll check it out. I went on my first cruise about a year and a half ago, the one to Antarctica I told you about. That was my first cruise ever, and I loved it so much. I love being on a ship.
Did that have anything to do with Lost City? You wanting to go to Antarctica?
No. Yes.
Tell the truth and shame the devil.
The Arctic looks so beautiful, and I always, kind of wanted to be on a ship, and I thought that's my kind of ship, where they have scientists talking to you and all that. And I really wanted, this is to bring my hat. So Stargate, are you getting it?
No, put it in front of you. There we go.
This is the cap I was given when we were where I was just describing, when we were in the outer office. We were given a couple T-shirts, which are long gone, and my Stargate SG-1 hat, which is a great hat. All the crew members wear it. And I wanted to bring that to Antarctica, so that Stargate has been to not only the Arctic, but the Antarctic now. I actually paid to camp on the land on Antarctica, and it was with.
Wow. Was it worth it?
Yes.
Okay.
It's beautiful. There are lots of penguins and seals, and we got to get so close to the whales. That was so impressive. You could hear their, noises and everything. At our camping site, some penguins joined us. They just decided they were living on another hill that was on the same land, and some of them, most of them were kind of hanging back, but two of them decided to join us. They were big.
Yeah,
They're
some
not
of them
like
were curious.
Yeah, and one of our the crew members climbed up on a lot of lava rock, and he started playing his guitar, and then they suddenly settled down like, we're staying, and they stayed the whole night. And I was actually pretty near them in my tent, but we weren't allowed to approach them or anything. It's not allowed. But I have pictures of them. I should have sent you
if they
pictures.
interact with you, that's one thing, but you're not allowed to touch them.
Yes, you know about this. So
one of our friends, Diana Botsford, actually set a couple of the Stargate novels in Antarctica. One of them specifically, and so she went down there and did a whole tour of it as well. But if you have any interest in GateCruise, I cannot recommend it enough, because you'll have a chance to meet Rick again, along with Amanda and Michael and several of the others, and it's disembarking out of Florida. So it's gonna be a pretty good time.
There's my cousin on the way. I'm going to check it out, see if I can get it in my budget.
Absolutely,
it's probably a lot cheaper than going to Antarctica, I'd say. So
I would suspect so.
Out. Not just the airfare to Antarctica. It takes you 2.5 days to get there from where I live. So
did you come out of South America through what's the southern tip?
Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires. Okay.
And then we went to Ushuaia, which is, you have to go to Ushuaia because that's where it's an island off of Buenos Aires, and it's part of Buenos Aires, and you have to go there because that's where all the boats dock. And other people, if they come from England, often come out of Chile, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
probably Santiago. This is awesome that you were able to come on and share your experience working on the show and in production. Did you continue to follow the franchise all the way through Atlantis and Universe?
Oh yeah, I liked Atlantis a lot, and I mentioned that I didn't get my tour because I ended up working on set all day, which I'm not complaining about, but I'm not stupid. What I did was I wrote, for the next convention I was going to, it was the very next one, I wrote Martin Wood a letter, a nice card, actually, a thank you card, nice letter. I said, I never got my tour. In case you happen to be filming during the next convention, do you think I, can get a tour? And he never wrote back, and I was like, okay, it's not going to happen. And then I have an actual message from him on my hotel room phone. I don't even know how he did that. And said, yes, I was invited. I couldn't bring a friend. I always ask, my roommate. And, but I did get to go. I had to get myself there. And I got to get a tour of, it was John Smith, the producer, took me around. And he took me to see they actually got to touch the gate and go look at everything more closely, things I didn't get to do the first day. I really wanted to walk up and touch the gate. And we did get to see a little bit of filming in the morning. And then he dropped me off to meet with Martin Wood, who took me over to the Atlantis set. So I got to watch them filming an episode of Atlantis. And
so this is season 1 of Atlantis, or this would be the following year.
Yeah, it was season 1. I think it was season 1 because it was pretty quick afterwards. I remember which episode it was. Not one of my favorites, but it was the one where they blanking out the actor's name. He was in the movie too, and he.
Richard Kind.
Richard Kind playing a different role, and he kind of used something to get control of women. So
So that was season 2 of Atlantis.
Yeah, and that's why I think it was a little longer then. Yeah,
that was. Is it season 2 of Atlantis or no? No, it's season 3. It's season 3 of Atlantis because I was on set for that episode.
Yeah, I know.
Irresistible.
I got him for the next convention. Yeah, and I was. It has nothing to do with Martin Wood or the people there or anything. It's just the topic. I did not like that at all. And but it was really. I got to see Jason Momoa. I got to meet David
Hewlett.
And David Hewlett was very kind. I actually shook his hand when he had to go and he hugged me. So I love that.
He's a good guy.
And he was reminding me that David Kind had been in the movie, which I'd forgotten until he reminded me. And, it was nice getting to see them film on the village set, of course, which everybody got to know after a while. They didn't fool us. That's a village set again. But that was, I forgot if it was right before or afterwards, Martin Wood took me up to the Atlantis set. I think it was afterwards. And he let me touch things, like controls and everything. And that was really, really neat. I really enjoyed that.
I'm trying to remember if I suspect there's a good chance that we crossed paths on that day.
Oh yeah.
Because we were there for that as well. So, because it was all around the same time of the convention.
Want me to tell the Arctic story?
Okay.
Well, I think it happened when John Smith dropped me off to meet with Martin Wood, and then they started talking very excitedly about someone who was there and how they'd been invited to go. SG-1 people were invited to go to a naval Arctic base at the North Pole, actual North Pole. And they were so excited. It was Martin Wood and John Smith talking about this in front of me. And I watched for a while and I'm listening to this. And I finally said, "You're pranking the contest winner, aren't you? You're not going to the North Pole, are you?" And they said, "Yes, we are." And the main thing they said was, Martin Wood said, "Well, I'm not just going there. We're going to film. If we're going there, we're going to film something." And that ended up being the movie.
Stargate Continuum.
And that was so exciting to hear about. They swore me to secrecy because another person and his wife were on the tour with me, which I didn't mention. At the time, I couldn't tell everybody who he was. I could say hello to him and everything, but it turned out he was the one. He was in charge of the naval base at the North Pole, and he was the one that invited them. And he was there.
Barry Campbell.
Barry Campbell, wow. And he was really nice. And I just walked by him, at the convention and go, "Hi," and then I'd walk on. I didn't want to draw any attention to him. And although, just like anybody, I'd want to ask him all sorts of questions about, what was it like living at the North Pole and all that. And then later in the day, after filming was over and I had to get home or get to my hotel room, we were having trouble getting a cab out there. So everything's, everybody's leaving. It's dark out. Martin Wood, he's like, "Have you gotten a cab?" And I said, "We're having trouble getting a cab here." And he said, "Wait a second." He knew you guys were still there. So he ran out and caught you guys and said, "Can you give Bonnie a ride?" And you knew who I was. And you say, "Thank goodness you guys got caught, and let me in." And what the first thing I said was, "They're going to film Stargate and that's the North Pole." And kind of went, what?
You told us that.
I told you guys that. And I just I think you just went, she's crazy or something. I don't know what you were thinking, but it just didn't connect. You didn't follow up with me on that.
No.
And later on, it got published. I was like, you gave somebody else credit. And I was like, hey, I'm the first one who told you.
We probably forgot about the conversation because if we can't verify it independently, we don't typically file it away.
Right. And you
Darren was a real stickler for that. Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe
we didn't want to really
good.
push.
Maybe I would have gotten into trouble. They didn't tell me I couldn't tell anybody that, but maybe that was good.
Well, if they swear you to secrecy, you're sworn to secrecy, Bonnie.
They did not swear me to secrecy on that. They just swore me to secrecy on the gentleman from the Barry from the naval commander from the North Pole, that he was at the convention. That's all they swore me to secrecy
I
on.
see. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it wasn't, I know it wasn't like a guarantee right away. Like they had to go through a whole, that's what it took 2 or 3 years for it to happen was, there were a lot of hurdles to go through once you start the process. But yeah, that's right. I do remember you telling us about that and thinking, well, that would be really cool if that were to come to pass. And a few years later, it obviously did. That's a wild memory.
I mean, that was crazy. It was a crazy thing to invite a TV show up there. And what they ended up doing, with that submarine coming up right behind them, through the ice. Oh my gosh, that was amazing stuff.
That's a cool sequence.
So, yeah, I know the Air Force worked with them a lot. And then now to have the Navy work with them, that was amazing.
The Air Force got a little jealous, and they had to give them fighter jets. So they had to try to one up the Navy. But I think the submarine won. What'd you say?
I think they worked it then, because I think that's why the Navy got involved. The commander was a fan, and he was a little jealous. Let's get the Navy on the show, and he did. And then I didn't know they that's how they got the fighters. That was really something. I thought that was CGI. I didn't know it was real.
No, they were well, I mean, obviously the ones that are in flight are CG, but they flew them the fighters up, and then they dragged them around behind a truck in the on the tarmac, and that's how that shot is done. So when they're in the planes themselves, so it's wild, absolutely wild.
Yeah. By the way, I did get on the one thing I did get to see that was. Since I didn't get really a tour, but they did take me to see the seat, the Antarctic seat, that control seat. I wanted to say, can I sit in there so badly, but they were rushing us through, and that would have been really nice for a picture.
It's not comfortable.
You got to sit in it.
Well, so when you were meeting up, when you said hello, I was sitting in that.
Oh,
for the last episode that we did for State of the Gate, I was in Switzerland, and the guy who owned it in his house, and I was sitting in the Antarctic chair because So when I said hello to you, you go back and look at that episode. I'm sitting in the Antarctic chair.
Oh my gosh!
Isn't that wild? So
that's wild. Yeah. No, I'm jealous, but that's a long way to go to see.
But it's so cool.
Yeah. They had it in a room all by itself on a pedestal, like, nobody go near this. At the time.
That's exactly right.
I can see why that would be a problem. Everybody be trying it out.
Yeah, if they've got Mark II Nakoda reactors or ZPMs plugged into it, you better look out, because you can cause some major damage if you got the right gene. So, Bonnie, this has been such a treat to see you.
You too.
GGWW 1085 wanted to know any conventions coming up that you're going to be at, Dragon Con, anything like that, where anyone can possibly bump into you?
I'll have to check. I will have to check. I've been traveling a lot lately since I recently retired, and this would be good to do. I especially enjoy going to Vancouver. There's so much to do there. I've never been. Where's Dragon Con? I've never been to it.
Atlanta.
I've been to the shop. Pardon?
Atlanta.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Oh, that I have to go through that airport again.
Biggest airport in the world now.
Oh, I know. It drives me crazy. I went through it going to Antarctica back and forth, and I had to go through international and, all that. As far as you can go in that airport, it's a big one.
It is.
That's a nice one to consider. I love the name of it. But let's see. There's no way I couldn't go to the Chicago one, since it's very close to where I live. I've been to it a couple times, and I've been to the Vancouver one a bunch of times because that's where I've met a lot of my friends, that we met, on Gay World. So I would definitely consider that. Yeah.
Well, if you have any chance to go to GateCruise, that's the one that I would really recommend because that's going to be just absolutely wild. So,
now you got me thinking about that. I've got time.
No,
I've got time
absolutely.
to get a good plane ticket.
Yeah, the tickets are almost completely gone. So go to GateCruise.com and look into it so that you can reserve your place. You can always cancel later if you needed to, but I really don't recommend waiting too long. And it will be great to see you.
I'm just working my budget in my head. I just bought a couch. I'm making sure I can put that down.
Ass does need to be comfortable, but also first Stargate cruise of all time. That would be cool too, and it'd be great to see you.
Is it the first one? Oh,
it's not an official cruise, but everyone who's somebody is there. So.
And that'd be great. That would be. Yeah. Now I'm into it. I'm going to try to make this happen, and it's December. So okay, but I have to book it fast. So I'll look it up
January next year. So
okay.
Yep. Yeah. GateCruise.com. I feel like I'm advertising it.
Yeah, they should get. You gave them a good plug because we're discussing it. Okay, everybody else, especially if I know you already, from Gate World, you come too.
There's going to be definitely a few Gate Worlders there for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been terrific.
If you have time, I want to tell my Richard Dean Anderson story.
Please.
I never got to meet Richard Dean Anderson during that time, but I did get to see him. I got to watch him film. But his daughter was there, and she was little at the time. And he was, when he got off filming, he would walk over and talk to her. She was on set too. So I never was introduced to him, and I was really sad about that. But after filming at the White House set, they said, okay, Richard Dean Anderson's driver is going to take you back to the hotel. And I thought, oh, that's cool. And she came along in this big, I don't know, it might have been a Cadillac or something. I don't know cars very well, but it was a big car, very nice. And I sat down, and it was a young woman who was the driver. And I immediately almost fell into the back seat because it was really set for a tall person. And I start to adjust it, and she said, Rick hates it when people do that. I'm like, okay, I won't do it. So I had to drive the whole way, hanging almost into the back seat because I didn't want to mess it up for Richard Dean Anderson. So that was my story there. But I did get to, but I kept saying, well, this is okay because I get to sit where he just sat. So.
There you go. No, he rides in comfort. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Well,
he is a good 6-7 inches taller than me, and I did get to meet him at a convention later, and I did get my picture taken with him. And I actually wore really tall shoes, so I was actually in the picture. He was very nice.
Bonnie, thank you for coming on. Raj wanted to know, are you on social media anywhere where we can catch you?
I have to really get going again. I got off Twitter when, it went the way it went. And I'm on Blue Sky, so I have to get that going. So I'll have to do that again and get, now that we're really rolling again, I've got to get back on Gate World. I really enjoyed that,
for sure. I mean, we've lost, the new show is not going to happen, but I mean, we're all kind of licking our wounds over that. And the hashtag Save Stargates revolution is in full swing. So it's wonderful how playful it's been. It's not been malicious, but it has been definitively trolling.
For a while. Yeah. My social media, for two reasons, I had to really pull back on that for a while. One, that I went back to grad school, and then two, I became a teacher in Chicago Public Schools, and the first thing they do, they try to find you online.
Yep. Yeah. If there's something out there, they're going to dig around for it. They want to see just how much of yourself you expose and what you're willing to say and everything else now. So it's quite the world that we live in.
We had to show the episode in class.
So,
yeah, and they also liked that I was an extra, where I didn't have any, just an extra in the Dark Knight movie because it was filmed in Chicago. I did that for charity, believe it or not. I did it for
You
free.
did?
Yeah, and I got to be in that. And of course, that was very cool with the kids. So, that kind of stuff. They're my two little claims to fame. Although if you saw Dark Knight, the only place, I'm everywhere in the movie, but I'm in crowd scenes. The only place you can actually see me is I'm blurred out in the car crash scene. That's it.
Oh, wow.
The blonde lady is blurry,
And Christopher is in the Dark Knight Rises.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, Christopher Judge is in Dark Knight Rises. So.
Oh gosh, I'd forgotten. That's really cool. It's there's all sorts of connections.
There sure are. Absolutely.
If you see
Bonnie,
this, I say hi.
I will at some point here, not in the not too distant future for sure. I need to get on the phone and talk to him about a couple of things. But this has been such a treat to sit down and catch up with you. Thank you for reaching out and spending some time with me today. This was really cool.
Thank you for having me. I got way more than my 15 minutes of fame. I don't deserve it, but I've enjoyed it very much, and people have been so kind. So
you deserve it as much as anyone else did. That was the really cool thing about that kind of program that Sci-Fi Channel was willing to do. They were willing to create a platform that engaged fans in those early days of social media and gave us something to participate in, and it gave you a story to share throughout the rest of your life, and you came on to share it, and I thank you for it.
Yeah. It was made going to conventions really fun.
For sure.
Some people, not everybody, but would figure out who I was and that I'd been on the show. That was fun. So
very cool.
That's why I said I got more than my share of my 15 minutes.
Absolutely.
So I'm grateful for that.
I appreciate you coming on, and hope to see you at GateCruise. But I'm gonna go ahead and wrap the show up on this side. All right.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming and asking questions.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Bye.
You take care.
Bye.
Bye now. That was Bonnie Arbuthnot, Get in the Gate winner. You're watching the Stargate Oral History Project. My name is David Reed. If you enjoy Stargate and you want to continue to see content like this, do me a favor. Click the like button. It does make a difference with the show and will continue to help us grow our audience. And if you've got some Stargate friends out there, consider sharing this episode with them. And if you want to get notified about future episodes, click subscribe. And if you give the bell icon a click, it'll notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. I cannot do this show without my patrons. I am so thankful for everyone who has been supporting me on Patreon to pull this episode off and related shows, especially now that, unfortunately, the next Stargate television series is, at least for the time being, on the rocks. So we'll is that the right metaphor, on the rocks? I'm not drinking the show. Anyway, we don't know what's going to happen with the next project. So until Amazon makes up its mind and decides what it wants to do, we're really there for each other. And you guys have been there for me through Patreon. So it means a lot to me to have you. My tremendous thanks to Anthony, to Raj, to Lockwatcher for helping out today in the chat. You guys pulled this off. My moderators, Anthony, Jeremy, Kevin, Lockwatcher, Marcia, Raj, Jacob, Enigma, Stephen. You guys make the show possible when we have these live streams week in and week out. Big thanks to Matt, Eagle SG Wilson. My tremendous thanks this episode to James Young, who has been responsible through Venture Pictures for our opening and closing sequences in this episode, and RJB Malachor for his Prometheus model. So I just cannot thank him enough for those guys enough for pulling these off. I really hope you enjoyed the Lost City sequences, because that was kind of fun to watch. We have another live stream tomorrow. We are going to bring in Ron Wilkerson, who has written episodes like Red Sky and Proving Ground and Between Two Fires. I am so excited to talk about him, talk with him about his shows, because so many of the great moral conundrums that SG1 faced were in his episodes. So you can go online and look up Ron Wilkerson at ronwilkerson.com. That's his website. And we're going to be talking with him about his SG1 episodes, as well as I definitely want to get into TNG Next Generation's Lessons, the episode where Picard fell in love with one of his science officers. But we're going to have him on tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So if you want to ask questions about his shows, come and join us then. I appreciate you tuning in for this live stream. Thanks to everyone who helped me pull this off. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate. Thanks so much for being here, and I will see you on the other side.